And we have two excellent guests joining us now to discuss control over the Panama Canal ports and more. Santiago Vidal Calvo, he's a policy analyst at the Manhattan Institute, and Casey Fleming, he's the chairman and CEO of BlackOps Partners, as well as the author of the new book, The Red Tsunami, The Silent Storm Killing Your Freedom. Thank you both so much for joining us. Santiago, starting with you, what's your reaction to this ruling?
Well, thank you very much for the invitation. I see this opportunity as the application of the Don't Row Doctrine in Latin America. And this is very much an expansion of both the interests of the United States, but also a countering for the Belt and Road Initiative in China. And this is my question that I pose to a lot of people. If China was able to invest billions of dollars worth of interest in Latin America, why cannot the United States do the same in the same way that they have done it for the past 100 years? Which is apply security measures for Latin America and kick out foreign enemies of the United States. China is not invested in Latin America because of charity or benevolence. They're investing because of interest. And this is a very important move to the U.S. to both secure the regional interests of Panama, but also of the United States of America.
And Casey, speaking of China, how big of a blow is this ruling to China, especially its influence in the Western Hemisphere?
Well, it's a good blow to the Chinese Communist Party. Over the past 20 plus years, they have gone unchecked in their global aggression. They have been all over Latin America, all over South America, Africa, you name it, and unchecked, and actually, in a lot of times, facilitated by the administration that was in office at that time. So they've gone on to be unchecked over the past 20 years. This is very solid for the United States to take control back over the canal, and also the profits and the revenue going through the canal that they can share with the Panamanians and Latin America. So it's strategic as anything because it's the major canal shipping for and military. So it's something that's very solid.
And Santiago, Secretary of State Marco Rubio weighing in, saying the United States is encouraged by this decision. It seems for now the Danish firm Maersk will take over operation of the two ports from Hong Kong company CK Hutchison. That's according to the Panama Maritime Authority today. How does control of the ports impact the geopolitical landscape here?
Well, it's part of a major strategy that Secretary Rubio has done in Latin America. And we need to put this in the context of what this means. Starting in January 3rd, we had Nicolas Maduro removed from power in Venezuela after a convicted narco-terrorist was put into an American jail by an operation. After this, we also have a coherent strategy to Latin America. And put it in the broader context, the United States is finally seeing Latin America as the front yard of the United States, not as a backyard. You can have a backyard that is very messy and disorganized, but if you have a front yard that is very organized and under the security of your house, then this means that Latin America is going to act accordingly. So what this means to the United States, the control of both ports, means that the United States is going to have full control over who passes the Panama Canal, what kind of transactions are being done there, but also it's a security control. In case of a crisis, the United States can act accordingly to prioritize the interests of the United States and not the ones of China. I think this is very important in both global trade, but also in the application of other things like tariffs or pressure to other countries. All of this comes into effect by controlling those ports, which control a huge portion of the trade that comes from Asia to Latin America and Europe.
And Casey, your thoughts on the geopolitical impact here?
Solid. It's a choke point with trade and military that needs to be controlled by the free world. It's very simple. There's two sides to the coin. You're either free or you're not free, and you're under the control of the Chinese totalitarian Communist Party. So that's the whole thing that's it's on the table. It's either free or it's not free. This is a step in the right direction. Now the next step is to get rid of the Chinese cranes and port equipment that's all weaponized against the free world.
That is another huge concern. Santiago, zooming out, though, in the region, China ally Cuba is also feeling the squeeze. President Trump threatened new tariffs on any nation selling oil to Cuba. What is the state of Cuba right now? How fragile is it?
I think the Cuban regime is very worried about the events that happened in Venezuela and that they lost one of their key, if not most important partners in the region. And let me just explain it to you. Out in the operation that happened in Venezuela, half of the forces that were dead or killed by American forces were Cuban military regime members or military that was protecting Maduro. This is how important Cuba was for the region and Venezuela. They have ties and connections to both China, Russia, Iran, Hezbollah, and FARC and ELN, terrorist organizations in Colombia and Venezuela. So we're talking here that this is a major criminal operation in the region. And the pressure that we are exerting into Cuba is to first say, after decades of your involvement in the region, we're not allowing this anymore. But second, if there were to be a regime change, that would be the most beneficial outcome for the United States. And I quote Mark Rubio on this: we would love to see a regime change in Cuba.
And Casey, on that note, what would be the impact on China if Cuba fell? For example, there's that reporting on the Chinese spy bases on the island. How would that change China's power projection here?
Well, what you're seeing is, like I said, China has been, and the Chinese Communist Party have been unchecked through Latin America, South America, and the rest of the world for the past 20 plus years. So this beat back on the Chinese Communist Party is very significant. Venezuela was the forward operating base for China, Russia, and Iran in the Western Hemisphere. Cuba is a satellite of Venezuela. Santiago is absolutely correct. So it's a definite hit to the Chinese Communist Party. We're seeing that there's not a lot of teeth in what they put together, but it's also a threat to freedom in the free world, and that's exactly what the strategy is. It's actually unrestricted warfare.
And Casey, on that note, staying with you, we've talked about the level of influence China has in these countries and the risks involved. But even here in the U.S., the Chinese regime has made its way into many sectors of our lives. Now, you spell that out in your new book. How important is it to also see this as a domestic issue? With about less than a minute here.
It is a domestic issue. This war is on the American people and on the Hispanic people of Latin America. It's on every free person in the world. It's a war against your freedom for totalitarian takeover by the Chinese regime. That's why I wrote the book on it, to bring it to the attention to all free citizens in the world, including the American people, because this war is on them. It's not on the military, and it's been going on for a long time, and it's hitting the mature stages where you're actually seeing it bubble up to the surface.
Oh, Casey Fleming, Santiago Vidal Calvo, thank you both so much for joining us.
Thank you for the invite.
Thank you.